Thank you, Professor Wang, Professor Kopp, and Rom. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be here to share with you all of my exploration in the past 10 years. This is a great chance, and I think we are in a good time of human history, where the West and the East can meet in a very more and more convenient way to pull up our wisdom. Okay, let's begin now. Richard, could you? Okay, yeah. Today I will talk about healing in a process way. My knowledge of process philosophy is still in the very beginning, but I will try to. I'm very much inspired by my research of Whitehead, and so I will first begin with my own history. Could you go to the next slide? Yeah. I will first give a brief introduction of myself, how I come to today's understanding. And then I will talk about Taoism and Confucianism, why they are relevant for healing. And then I will try to analyze, I will discuss how process philosophy and meditation, as well as Taoism and Confucianism, can enlighten each other. Okay, next, please. So, as Rom mentioned, I had a PhD degree in China University of Politics and Law, and my PhD, the topic is about judicial lawmaking in China. And then now, when I look back upon my research, maybe we will have a process philosophy of law. That means, is law inactive? Or does it grow as an organism with judges as its major gardener? I think it is a big issue, but I will not go to this issue today. Next, please. I have translated 3 books by Professor Reinhold Tepelius, a German professor, in that Introduction of Law, Judicial Methodology, and Philosophy of Law. Next, please. Okay, that's the 3 books I translated, or are published in China, in Chinese. Next. I think my research on philosophy of law, one of the most important concepts I learned is the concept of Menschenbild. It's a German word. It means, what does it mean to be a human being? What do we live as a human being, but are we conscious of it? What does it mean? And this is an ancient question. And I realize that we will have different concept of Menschenbild in different religions, spiritual tradition, culture. Also, we are all influenced by today the modern science. There is a hypothesis of Menschenbild behind science, but we don't know. We think it's we take it for granted, but that's a problem. Yeah. This is a very important concept. Okay, next, please. After I finished my PhD, I began working as a lawyer in Beijing. Luckily, in 2012, only half a year as a lawyer, I was diagnosed to have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. At the same time, I also have had atrophic gastritis and prostatitis and ankylosing spondylitis. So a lot of problems. But now I think it's lucky that I have all of them. And that prompted me to make experiment upon myself. Next slide, please. I was first inspired by the road less traveled by Dr. Scott Peck. Wow, that's good. The next slide, please. In this book, Dr. Scott Peck said, it is hardly remarkable that we sicken and die. What is truly remarkable is that we don't usually sicken very often, and we don't die very quickly. There is a force, the mechanism of which we do not fully understand, that seems to operate routinely in most people to protect and encourage their physical health, even under the most adverse conditions. I was exactly inspired by this quotation in 2012 to make adventure. Next slide, please. So first, I have no idea how to heal myself, but intuitively, I think it's possible. I needed to do experiment. I needed to make an adventure. First, what I could think of is cycling. I like sports. I made a cycling from Beijing to Yunnan for more than 3,000 kilometers. It worked quite well. When I came back to Beijing, the tumor became smaller by a half. It's on my neck. Now it's still there, but very, very little, very, very small. Okay, next slide, please. After I came back to Beijing from the cycling, I started to practice meditation at the advice of a friend. He gave me a book. It's about the Qigong. I think you all know about the Qigong. It's a book written by a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine with some patient reports. I think it's quite plausible. So I started to practice, and soon I had the experience of qi, the flow of qi in my body. That's for me, it's an experience I never had before, and I think this could be a way that I can finally or completely get rid of the threat of tumor. And thanks to my research in my PhD, I think it's possible to explore the Qigong. Qigong had a bad name in China, not always a good name, because it's too mystical for the public. I decided to explore the myth of Qigong and also meditation and its effect upon healing and health in a rational and a scientific way. And from the very beginning, I decided to record my experience and write about my experience and how I understand them with my research, and publish it in in my blog. In the very beginning, it's not a WeChat, it's in Sina, it's internet. Okay, next please. And my daughter, then I worry about the education of my daughter. She was only 3 years old when I was diagnosed to hair lymphoma. And after I started to do meditation, I realized that I never would like to have my daughter to have the same education I had had. I think it's a disaster. So luckily, I found a Waldorf a kindergarten in Beijing, and I took interest in anthroposophy. And I sent my daughter to that kindergarten. I also translated a book, what is anthroposophy, from German into Chinese. And also another book about the development of human being, which is related to anthroposophy. Next, please. What I benefited from anthroposophy the most is that through anthroposophy, I first had an idea that life is a process of growth and development. But with anthroposophy, it's more simply about the spiritual development of human being. Then I wonder, what about the physical? Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a chart from the book I translated. It says normally we grow after we birth until we reach 20 years old. And then we grow both spiritually and physically. Then it leveled out. Yeah, we remain physically, and we no longer grow, but we can still develop spiritually. After 40, yeah, the physical condition will inevitably deteriorate, but it's sad. It's still possible for us to develop spiritually, but I do doubt this. Yeah, I think more and more I feel that the physical health and the spiritual development are conditioned upon each other. They have to. Okay, let's go. Next slide, please. Now I'm based in Shenzhen. Yeah, this is the idea where it's located in China. Next, please. Okay, healing. So in the past 10 years, I first of all, I benefited the best from Taoism and Confucianism. It's through my personal experience, I started to understand what my own tradition or culture is about. Before that, although I'm a PhD, I had no idea. A great pity. Next slide, please. I think the common basis, Taoism and Confucianism has a common basis. That is the cosmology of I Ching. I think it is the most ancient scripture or culture in China. It's a text for divination. It's not easy to understand. It's a text for divination, but it's now could say it has the following ideas. Next, please. Because it's about divination. But first of all, there is no God in charge. Yeah. In I Ching, it's all about how we should do, how we should act, but not. But there we need to. There is the concept of Tao is not explicitly mentioned in I Ching, but it already implies the existence of Tao. So it means there is inherent dynamic in the cosmos. We have to follow it in order to stay away from dangers. So life is a natural outcome of the cosmic process. It's not created by a divine agency in a supernatural way. I think maybe it's not that clear in I Ching, this idea, not that clear, but it's latent there. And also the oneness of cosmos and human beings. Next, please. So these are two quotations from I Ching and later research or scholars on I Ching. The fully developed man maintains conscious throughout the day. This is auspicious. This is, yeah. And also, the greatest virtue of the cosmos is to bring forth life. So it's not a mechanical cosmos, but it's a cosmos with evolving life. Next, please. So I think people, the ancient, our ancestors in the West and in the East, in the very beginning, took interest in what is cosmos. But there are two approaches. One is intellectual, one is ethical. In the West, it's more intellectual. The Greek, the ancient Greek, they are very intellectual. They wonder what is the nature of the cosmos. But in China, it's more the next approach, the second approach. How should we live? I think these two questions are closely related to each other, but the West and the East took different approaches in the very beginning. Next, please. So I think Taoism is the major idea of Taoism is that the human being is the embodiment of Tao and is capable of becoming conscious of this, thus leading to its ongoing transformation and development. Next, please. So when we deviate from Tao, when we are not conscious of Tao, how it is functioning, we will have mental and physical problems. So when we become sick, it's because of deviation from Tao. But then it's possible for us to get us back to Tao, and then healing occurs automatically. Next, please. This is a quotation from Tao Te Ching, the major scripture of Taoism. It says, "Reach the deepest emptiness, preserve the full stillness. The myriad beings arise together. In them I watch the returning." It's the returning of maybe Tao or Qi. The swarming multitude of beings all return home to their root. Going home to one's root is called stillness. which restores the life. Restoring the life is called the eternal. Knowing the eternal is being enlightened. Not knowing the eternal leads to unwise action and causes one's own calamity. So there is two major issues. One is change, flow, but the other is eternal, which is permanent. Next, please. And also, 庄子is another major scripture of Taoism. It says, without looking, without listening, resting the mind in peace, the body will correct itself. So healing is an inherent issue of Taoism. This is very special. Next, please. And also the inner canon of Emperor Yellow is a very ancient scripture before Christ. It's the basis, until now, it is still the basis of traditional Chinese medicine. One quotation from this scripture is, desire nothing and empty one's mind, qi will flow and we will be free from disease. Next, please. Another quotation from inner canon, it's about how diseases are related to qi. It says all diseases are caused through the irregular flow of qi. With anger, qi flows upward. With joy, qi flows in a relaxed way. With sorrow, qi fades away. With fear, qi sinks. With coldness, qi shrinks. With heat, qi becomes diffused. With terror, fear, with terror, when one is horrified, qi is disturbed. With overwork, qi is exhausted. With depression, qi is suppressed. This is, I think it's already a scientific observation, yeah, but it's very subjective. But still, it's also objective because it's the same for each one, yeah. But it's a very subjective experience. Next, please. And I think the most important issue about qi is that about Taoism. I think in the other traditions, like in Hinduism or in Christianity, they also mention the issue of qi, energy, life force. But the most special with Taoism is it mentioned it's how qi exactly flows in the body and how it's related to the consciousness and the body. That makes the understanding of qi more reliable. Then we can work with it. If we don't know how it flows, how it works, you know that there is a life energy, but it's not very helpful for us to make it a science or yeah. And according to Taoism, qi flows in a circle. It goes down in the front and goes up in the back. I have instructed patients for more than 5 years intensively. It's always the case, not in the other direction, like going up in the front and going down in the back. Very few people in the very beginning has this experience. It seems as if the qi goes up in the front and going down in the back. But after a while, it will be reversed. So it's this circulation is very, and when qi goes down in the front, we relax. When qi going up in the back, we become more alert. And so this is a very important issue with healing. If we rely meditation as a healing, physically and both physically and mentally. This knowledge and experience is very, very important. Next, please. So we also have this symbol of Taoism. It's not very abstract actually. It's very concrete. When we do meditation, in a proper way, you feel it. It flows in a circle in your body. Next, please. As I have mentioned, this is a chakra system in Hinduism. It's also energy system, but it's more linear. It goes up, from the more primitive energy to the more spiritual energy, but it's not a circulation. This energy understanding is, of course, also important, but I think it's not enough. Okay, next, please. And another quotation from another Taoist scripture is Huainanzi. It's also very ancient scripture. It says, body is where the life dwells. Qi is what nurtures the life. Consciousness is what limits the life. In case any of them is out of order, all the three will suffer. This quotation is very important, as it mentioned, emphasizes the balance of body and consciousness, body and mind, or the physical dimension and the spiritual dimension. So there's a balance. So it's not simply emphasize the development of the spiritual development. There's this idea of balance of body and mind, and they are conditioned upon each other. Next, please. Now, Taoism is more intellectual than Confucianism. I mean, it's a mind-oriented. Taoism is more about the cosmos, but Confucianism is more about ethics. So I think in China, there is a huge misunderstanding now in the public about Confucianism. When we talk about Confucianism, the young, especially whether the older generation or the younger generation, they don't like Confucianism. It's a great pity, because of course, it's because Confucianism is becoming more and more dogmatic in later development, because of the political development. But in its core, Confucianism is the art and scholarship of cultivating the body or life through participating in the development of the community. So it's not simply in seclusion. It's more about going out and cultivating relationship with other people. And it's a scholarship. It's not dogmatic in its core. Next, please. So Confucianism, its core idea is about how we can cultivate ourselves physically and mentally as a whole, and in our relation to the other people, to the society, and it's especially through serving the public. It's for your good, for the sake of your own health. Next, please. Personal cultivation is more about the relationship with the cosmos, because the body is exactly the cosmos, part of the cosmos. And then there is a relationship with other human beings. Okay, next slide, please. So this idea is why Confucius is the founder of Confucianism, because he his core teaching, his major teaching is about how to fulfill one's potential and nature as a human being as much as one can. And this leads to freedom. It's about freedom, be freed from our destiny. Each person has his given conditions, like the background or the disease. This is the given conditions, or your personality, your temperament. But there is a way to get free from, to make yourself free. And Ren has very rich, this idea of Ren has very rich meaning, but it's about solitude. You have to be often to be with yourself. It's about love, and it's also intellectual. But this element or intellectual is not, in the very beginning, it's not emphasized. Next, please. And Mencius is another leading founder of Confucianism. Confucius did not talk about qi. It's Mencius who first, in the school of Confucianism, Mencius is the first one clearly talk about qi. But the Mencius does not talk about qi as he emphasized more cultivating qi through virtuous behavior in an ethical way, not like the Taoist monk who always stay in seclusion and do meditation. This is because it mentions that qi goes together with righteousness, which means ethical behavior, and also Tao. But this ethical element is much more emphasized than the intellectual element. Next, please. And also Mencius give the major principle of cultivating qi. I think this, I teach this principle in my instruction. It's 勿忘勿助, which means not ignoring, not hasty. That it be conscious, but that it's big. And Mencius, it's because life is an organism. It's like a plant. So you have to be conscious of taking care of it, but you should not be hasty. Then you destroy it. Next, please. And there is, after Confucius and Mencius, each generation of Confucianist scholarship in our history has added something more to Confucianism. There is a history of intellectual development. Now we will call it the Neo-Confucianism. One of the leading scholar of the Confucianism today is Professor Tu Weiming. He is still alive. He is in the Peking University, a professor of Peking University. And he is also a keynote speaker at the 24th World Congress of Philosophy in Beijing in 2018. He said that Confucianism, in essence, is a spiritual humanism. And he exactly mentioned this idea of the embodiment or the cultivating of the body. And in his speech at the World Congress, he said, one of the most basic Confucian precepts is that learning to be human is to learn to become a person. Becoming a person entails a dynamic process of transformation. Strictly speaking, we do not own our bodies. We become our bodies. Bodies are not givens. They are attainments, indeed amazing achievements. So we can do something. Our body is not doomed to deteriorate, but there is some, it's possible for us to work on it. Okay, next please. So that means cultivating the body is a conscious and a spiritual process leading to the ongoing transformation of the life, including its physical dimension. Next, please. And so I teach reproductive meditation as healing, and there is a sitting meditation, standing meditation, moving meditation, stretching, and more. Next, please. So for sitting meditation is to experience how consciousness affects the flow of qi. Yeah, when we do sitting meditation, we work on our consciousness. We become conscious of what happens in our body. And we will experience that when we try to become more conscious of our body, this act, this effort by itself activate the flow of qi in the body, and then it will have some influence upon our mental state, as well as like the blood circulation and other physical effect. Next, please. So this, I suggest in the very beginning, not sit in the lotus position. It's not comfortable. More in a natural way, sitting on a chair. Next, please. And focusing on the major is very simple. Focusing on the breathing without a maneuver on the process of breathing. And I don't suggest in the very beginning to sit like 30 minutes or 1 hour. That's too long for the beginner. I always begin with 10 minutes. Yeah. And then slowly, we have the experience. Little by little, we have longer sitting. And normally we will feel the deepening of the breathing. Yeah. Then the circulation will started to be activated, and then causing the deepening of the breathing. And we will have salivary, hand and feet get warmer, sweating, and the feeling of energy flow, alleviation of symptoms. Not the same for each person. Each person will have different experience, but normally in the very beginning, they have this experience. That means the body begins to correct itself. Next, please. So it's sitting meditation is an effort to become actless. Modern people act too much, think too much. But through sitting meditation, we learn to relax ourselves, to not acting. And this is a key idea of Taoism, Wu Wei, means actless. And then we get connected to the cosmos in our body. And then the cosmos, its flow will be activated. Next, please. And there's standing meditation. Standing meditation is more on the qi level then, because then it's more work than sitting. It's more on the qi level. So they have different focus. Next, please. And there's moving meditation, like walking, jogging, Tai Chi. This is myself on this picture. I do Tai Chi too. That means when we, it's easier for us to experience flow of Qi in sitting or standing. But then when we started to have the experience of Qi, we should try to experience it in moving. Yeah, it's another training. Next, please. Especially jogging is also very important because we need some physical support exercise so that our lungs, our heart will be strengthened, and the muscles, the nerve system will also be tuned to the flow of Qi. And then there is daily exercise to be conscious in any moment in our daily life, working, talking, reading, eating, and interaction with people. Next, please. And there is a milestone. That is normally although this circulation is always there, but it's not easy to experience it. When we are young, we are not patient enough to experience this. When we are older, it's too weak for us to experience. So it's not easy to experience this circulation, but through regular experience, we can directly experience the circulation. Next, please. And here is the report from Clara. Clara is a Chinese Canadian. I'm wondering whether Clara is also with us. Clara, if you are here, you can tell me in the chat room, okay? Because I would like you to make a little some comment later. He mentioned he had lung cancer. She is based in Canada, so I give her online instruction. She started in July last year, and in March this year, she reported that in the evening of March 8th, when I started to do meditation, I soon felt that Qi, which normally flew from the tailbone upward along the spine and stopped at the back neck. This time, it went further upward to the back head and flew into the nostril. Then it slowly went down the throat and reached the lower belly. After that, I lost the control of my breathing. The flow of Qi started to take control of the pace of my breathing automatically. And it seemed as if I no longer needed breathing. With each out breathing, Qi flow into the belly, and with each in-breathing, Qi flew into the brain. So it's the circulation. Qi flew throughout the whole body at the rhythm of breathing, as if the whole body was breathing. After the meditation, I felt very relaxed, energetic, and joyful. Walking upstairs was as easy as walking on the ground for me. She reported in Chinese. I translated it into English. Next, please. So I think there is two stages in meditation. First, we need to focus on the breathing to experience the flow of Qi, because in the very beginning, the experience of Qi is very weak. But slowly, we can directly experience the flow of Qi in the body, especially when we reach the milestone, this circulation. We will realize that there is no more no longer no need to focus on the breathing. We just try to be conscious. Then this act or try to become more conscious automatically activate the flow of qi. Then we can stay with it in a more direct way. Yeah. Next, please. So there is a methodology with meditation. I think in the history of Taoism and Confucianism, the point is that there is no methodology. What is a methodology? It means what's our aim, the purpose is of doing meditation. I think it's the dynamic balance and development of body, energy, and consciousness. That is the cultivation of the body. So with that, we can adjust our method, our way along the course, but not doing meditation in a dogmatic way. Next, please. So I do tutoring. Now I do tutoring. Normally I give 3 to 5 day workshops, online, offline, and also private tutoring, especially some person who try to have more intensive improvement when they have like a serious health problem. And there is but after the workshop or private tutoring, I always suggest them to stay with me for half a year, even 1 year, because it's not a simply a technique. It's more there is it's a philosophical training actually. It's then they needed to be more they needed to look to develop a new understanding of life, not stuck in the old paradigm. Next, please. So I think I give some other cases. There's in the very beginning, there's a case of Janina Nagata. He's a Brazilian. He attended a 3-day workshop. Next, please. Yeah, this is the girl from Brazil. Next, please. This is her report after the 3-day workshop. She said, at the beginning, I felt really insecure and apprehensive, especially because I'm a worrywart, always concerned about several things at once. For me, it is hard to be calm and to concentrate in myself, in my interior, in my own body and mind. As minutes passed, I started to get calmer. It is really difficult to explain what I felt in these first 20 minutes of meditation. Initially, I felt really hot and my hands started to sweat a lot. Later, I forgot these sensations and I felt much more comfortable and self-confident. The immediate response of my body was to salivate more than usual, and this symptom persists until now. Also, I felt my mouth stretched, especially my jaws. It seemed like something was happening with my body, but I couldn't explain in words what it was. I can assure, however, it was a good sensation. Next, please. On the day that followed, we started in the morning with a 20 minutes session of meditation. This second time was much stronger than the first, and little by little, I started to feel the energy flowing in my body. It was curious that when I told the group how I felt the flow of energy, Leo said it was the first time he found someone like me. The energy starts to flow from my neck, going down my spine to my legs, and after it goes up to my belly and to chest and arms. That's exactly what I have mentioned. She is one of the few persons who felt that the qi goes up in the front and goes down in the back. But later on, it turned to the normal direction. Next, please. And there is a case of Mrs. Long. She is 60 years old, diagnosed to have lung cancer stage 2 in February this year. I give her daughter know about me for some time. So, and she accepted my understanding. I give her 10 days intensive meditation training together with her daughter-in-law, and her daughter. And then she attended my online membership tutoring. But she also had targeted therapy. He take the drug, and the tumor shrinked from the size of egg to the size of a small grape. This is reported by her about 1 month ago. And she was a housewife, not much education, very simple person, but she had a very good experience, and she now jogging. Before she didn't jog. She had a difficult moving, but now she jog each day around 2 hours, and then jumping ropes and meditation. Next, please. Yeah, this is Mr. Wrong in the right. There's a son and her daughter. Next, please. Next slide. And Clara is he's diagnosed to have lung cancer, stage 4 in April in Canada. I give her 10 times online tutoring from July, each time 1.5 hours. And then there's another 5 times after that, once a week. She also had the targeted therapy. I'm wondering whether Clara is there. Maybe, but because of time, I will go further. Yeah. Next, please. So now, how are process, philosophy, and meditation related to each other? Next, please. I think first of all, there is a need for an integrative cosmology. I think the cosmology of Taoism and Confucianism, as I have said, is more intuitive. It's very simple. Yeah. So at this time of China has been the culture of China has been very much westernized. I think that's good. Yeah. This development of science. However, then the cosmology of modern science and the cosmology of Taoism and Confucianism for the public is too remote from each other. That's why people now in China are so they have foreign. They like I'm a typical I'm a intellectual and with a PhD degree, but before I had the disease and started to do the practice, I had no idea what Taoism and Confucianism is related to me. Next, please. So that's why I was very much inspired when I was started to read Whitehead, intensively in some months ago. He said, Proust said philosophy as speculative philosophy is the endeavor to bring a coherent, logical, necessary system or general idea in terms of which every element of our experience can be interpreted. And also by Griffin, the integration of moral, aesthetic, and religious intuitions with the most general doctrines or the sciences into a self-consistent worldview as one of the central tasks of philosophy in our time. Very inspiring for me. Next, please. So we can raise two questions. The first is, can the healing and the transforming effect of meditation based on Taoism and Confucianism be understood, interpreted in a rational and intellectual way, sufficiently arguable in modern culture? Especially, is it compatible with modern science? Next, please. My answer is yes, but it should be interpreted in a philosophical way, not simply in a scientific way. Next, please. Because the cosmology of meditation, or Taoism, Confucianism, and the cosmology of modern science are too remote from each other. The common basis has to be developed through philosophy. I would, the circulation of qi in the body and its development cannot be monitored and enhanced by any device or any third person, but have to be experienced by oneself, and most of the time in solitude. So it's a subjective experience. Then, but there is it's possible to reasoning about the qi. It's not simply subjective. The experience of qi is a spiritual, religious experience as well as a philosophical experience. And I think we can talk about philosophical experience. So philosophical reasoning can be experienced and tested, whereas its effect upon the physical body can be observed, recorded, and measured in a scientific way, because it has a measurable effect, healing effect upon the body. Next, please. And I also inspired very much by Professor Kopp's glossary, but I haven't go through it. He said, in our world, reality consists more of vibratory phenomena than of sheer repetition by successive occasions. So qi is actually vibration. When we experience qi, it's the experience of vibration. Next, please. So, and I think the cosmology of process philosophy, it's a key, one of the key concept is actual entity. It's the ultimate reality of the cosmos. And actual entity is actual, it's growing, it's acting. So it's dynamic. This is qi. Maybe more we can, but it's yeah, and it's an issue of consciousness. So it cannot be measured in an objective way. Yeah. But its effect can be. Next, please. And also, yeah, human experience is taken as it is. non-reductively, because the moment of human experience has a status of being an actual or being an actual occasion. It's a causal because they cannot be ignored as is typically done in the science stage. So human experience should be understood as a whole. Next, please. This is my understanding. It has the human experience has to be taken as a whole, but not destructively. Be it in the physical, in the physiological, psychological, aesthetical, religious, intellectual, or moral. They have to be taken as a whole. They influence each other. And the well-being and health of the individual is dependent upon the degree or integration of the experience in all these realms. All these experience has to be integrated. If they remain separated, that's not good for the health. Next, please. So it is in the process and the reality by Whitehead, religion deals with the formation of the experiencing subject. That's a human being, we, is in the formation. And also, philosophy is a self-correction by consciousness or its own initial excess or subjectivity. So that means religion and philosophy leads to transformation of consciousness. And I think we, as a whole, physical and spiritual, are two dimensions of consciousness. Next, please. But now in the West, more and more interest, academic interest is focusing on meditation. And they started to do research upon meditation and its effect upon our brain, upon our healthy, mental, but basically the research is in the scientific, the traditional, in a traditional scientific way. I think then its achievement is very much limited because we needed to go to the level or go to the philosophical approach. Then we know we know how to make the research more efficiently. Next, please. Then the next issue, the next question, to what extent can the transformation of body life through meditation based on Taoism and Confucianism proceed? Yeah, if we can always heal ourselves, does this lead to a life without a death? Well, that's a crazy question. Next, please. But Confucius already mentioned this. Yeah. He said, if we don't understand the life, how can we understand the death? Yeah. The way to understand the death is to understand the life. Yeah. Next, please. And also another important major scripture of Confucianism is Zhongyong, which means the doctrine of the mean, going in the middle. It is that only when true sincerity is practiced, that meditation, be conscious, can one understand one's own nature. When one can understand one's own nature, one can understand the nature of human in general. When one can understand the nature of human in general, one can understand the nature of all beings with life or without life. When one can understand the nature of all beings, one can participate in the creation of heaven and earth. When one can participate in the creation of heaven and earth, one can be equivalent with heaven and earth. This is a very optimistic understanding of human being. Yeah. Next, please. And the thing is mentioned in process and reality. Creativity is the universal of universals, characterizing ultimate matter of fact. It is that ultimate principle by which the many, which are the universe disjunctively, becomes the one actual occasion, which is a universe conjunctively. It lies in the nature of things that the many enter into complex unity. So I think our life is the vehicle to experience this insight. We can, the life itself is creative. It's always renewing, restoring, developing itself. That's possible. Next, please. So this is my own opinion. The possibility or the potential of the social, the psychophysical organism as a whole to evolve infinitely in a way that it maintains its identity, while it continues to be renewed through prehension. That's how I understand the prehension. In the course of its value increase, when we develop our consciousness in this course, we are more helpful for this world. So meditation is needed for the entity to remain actual, the actual entity. For ceaseless prehension to occur successfully, and for the maintenance of the identity of the organism. That's my first understanding. I think maybe it needs further development. Next, please. So the point is, now in the West, the development of science and philosophy is more about interpretation, how we understand the cosmos, how we understand the human being, the life. And then there's another approach is transformation. How do they relate to each other? Next, please. Yeah, this is the guy very much influential for the Chinese ideology. Yeah, he said the philosophers have interpreted the world in different ways, but what really mattered is to transform it. Karl Marx. Next, please. I will argue that interpretation by itself is transformation. Next, please. Whether you know it or not, whether you admit it or not. Interpretation for me, from the perspective of process philosophy, maybe it's prehension. Prehension, there are two types of prehension, or actual entities. There's physical prehension, and also prehension of eternal objects, that conceptual prehension. Maybe interpretation by itself is a prehension. When we try to interpret something, we have to be more conscious. Then this effort, this act by itself leads to transformation of the consciousness, which will have effect upon the flow of qi and upon the physical body. But it depends whether we are conscious of this or not. If we are not conscious of this, we may too much trapped in intellectual reasoning, but ignore its effect upon the flow of qi, upon the effect of transformation. Next, please. So I will argue that, that's my, luckily I have basically finished my presentation. I think, as mentioned in the very beginning, now I'm very much grateful for what for the tumor, for the lymphoma I had, and all the other health problems I had, which prompted me to do more research, be more try to understand what it is really about, and then leading to this understanding. This is based on my education of the Western style, my reasoning, and then my own tradition. So I myself is the effect of the integration of the West and the East. Most probably, it leads to a new story of life. So all the disasters and maybe also traumas we experience in our life, including this pandemic of COVID, I think there is a blessing behind them. But if only we really have the courage to face it and try to deepen our understanding. Next, please. I will try to express my gratitude to Professor J. McDaniel and Dr. Andrew Davis. They introduced, I attended their course about process philosophy and opened a new horizon for me. Next, please. I will also try to express my deepest condolence to our loss of Professor David Griffin. I missed the chance to meet him personally. I will try to conclude my presentation with a quotation from him. He said, most of my work is on issues that I think are of central importance in a worldview, capable of sustaining a sense of the meaning and the importance of life, and an ethical stance adequate to the needs of the present and the future situation of the world. Thank you very much.